I mean, look at this, Pete. 49ers, Texans, Packers, Jets in London in the bye. You know what? Off the bye, you get the Detroit Lions, and then you got at the Rams. I can see an L for all of those games. Oops.
What about the student council story? That one's a corker.
Hello everybody and welcome to week 5 of the NFL season. Hopefully this video is getting up pretty quickly because, as many of you may know, the Vikings play at 8:30 a.m. Central Time as they are taking on the Jets in London. I've struggled to get this video put together because, if you cannot tell, I have been a little bit under the weather the last few days. As they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So I am going with that advice and enjoying a Von Stiehl Brandy old-fashioned hard cider. Technically apple. The Von Stiehl Brandy old-fashioned hard cider is a mixed drink in a bottle comprising of hard cider, brandy, cherry bitters, cherry bounce, vanilla, and orange. Mild hard apple cider undertones with a brandy cream mouthfeel, cherry and vanilla on the finish. 6.9% alcohol by volume, gluten-free. All right, I have poured some here. It's really hard to get a good. That's a pretty good representation. I think this makes it maybe look a little bit darker than it actually is here from my view. It's a really nice pink orange, kind of like you would expect in an old-fashioned. Skål, feel it there. Well, that is so pleasant. I was concerned that maybe this would be kind of a gimmicky thing where it would be just like cider, technically, yes, but just like so full of orange and cherry juice that it would be, just a fruit blast, which not a bad thing. But no, it's actually really well balanced. I would say like cider is what I got first, but with some more body to it. And then definitely they talked about that cherry vanilla finish. It's subtle, but it's like the whole, listen to me. It does feel like there's flavor the whole way through. There's not like the finish isn't just like an aftertaste, if that makes sense. This is really enjoyable. Hopefully this will return me to health. That is really pleasant. Each sip kind of is, it's not as strong as an old fashioned by any means, but that almost makes it kind of more refreshing to sip. All in all, very good. I would recommend it. Von Stiehl Winery over in Algoma in Door County, Wisconsin. Okay, on to today's game. Well, first, Vikings fans, let's just take a second here and appreciate that many people in the national media had the Vikings going like 4-13 or however many games there are in a season now. We've already hit the 4, so most teams would be like, well, there's no way we don't, beat the Vegas line, which I think was 5.5 wins or something like that. The rest of us remember, I'm bad at years, but was it 2016 when Sam Bradford came in and they went like 5-0 and then went like 8-3 the rest of the season to finish 8-8? Like, so let's not be counting our chickens before they hatch. But as has been said on many shows that cover the Vikings, this was supposed to be the toughest part of the Vikings schedule. And, people were like, well, maybe they can come out of it 2-2. They should beat the Giants. And then if they can steal one of the next 3 games, that would be good. And maybe the rest of the season they can limp along. They're 4-0 and they look convincingly good. Beating the division, rivals, always a good time. Even if it was way, way, way more stressful than it needed to be. I say all that to say we come into this week and I would not have liked the Vikings odds against the Jets before, but I didn't like their odds against the 49ers. I didn't like their odds against the Texans, and I frankly didn't like their odds against the Packers with or without Love. It feels like I don't have that confidence in them yet to say like, yeah, we're that good of a team. When we're missing so many pieces and still winning, there's just part of me that refuses to accept good things into my life. Years of pain, I guess. So now we're off to London to take on the old enemy, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. who themselves have been floundering a little bit more than I think people expected this year. I'll try to be somewhat to the point with this because I'm not sure how long this is going to hold out, but it's an interesting matchup, and it's an interesting chicken or the egg week. And I say that because currently the Jets are getting gouged in the running game. And my first inclination is, well, is that just because their secondary, their pass defense is so good, teams run it instead and are finding success? But it does actually seem like teams are having like efficiency in the run game, not just through sheer volume. They're getting a ground game going. On the flip side of it, the Vikings are like top 5 in EPA on defense, meaning like they're holding teams to the fewest expected points allowed or expected points averaged on each play. But they're giving up like, I want to say like the most passing yards in the NFL. But they've also been ahead in every game by like a large margin. And when one team is ahead, their opponent has to pass a whole bunch to keep up. So I think what the Vikings have is kind of like what the Cowboys had a few years ago, a very bend but don't break defense. They're getting pressure on the quarterback. They're getting turnovers. They're getting a lead, and then the other team has to pass to catch up. So through the course of the game, they're just accumulating lots of yards. If you look at Jordan Love last week, I think he wound up with over 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 turnovers. Like, that's a really good stat line for fantasy, and would also make the Vikings look like, if you take away the interceptions, that's a really good week for Jordan Love. But it all came in the second half. So it's a very interesting week in terms of, which team schemes better for their opponent's weakness. I have had Sam Darnold in fantasy a lot of this year, and I'm taking him out because I think the Jets' secondary is real. I think they're tough, but I also felt the same way about the 49ers and the Texans. And it might just be that Kevin O'Connell is great enough at scheming people open that we've got the talent on offense to deal with high-power cornerbacks. Derek Stingley for the Texans, notably, is one who's gotten a justifiable reputation for shutting receivers down. Wouldn't know it by the way he played the Vikings. So I don't know what to do with this optimism. I'm used to, telling everybody, like, let's just pump the brakes. It's just a couple weeks. Like, let's see how it goes. And when you do that, when you guard your heart that way, you wind up missing out on the fun. So I'm going to try to be all in on this week. I think if the Jets win, it is largely on the shoulders of their defense, and I am concerned about Aaron Rodgers using his cadence to make the Vikings jump. He's very good at it. He's known the league wide for doing it. And I feel like the Vikings have a very aggressive defense, and he's going to use his crafty veteran wiliness to get the Vikings to jump or get the Vikings to show him what they're doing on defense. So far this year, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Daniel Jones, and Jordan Love have played the Vikings, and Brian Flores' defense looks like it has confused all of them. All of them are arguably younger and more inexperienced quarterbacks, and Daniel Jones. But I think Aaron Rodgers is smart enough and crafty enough and frankly conservative enough to dink and dunk the Vikings and not let them get big explosive plays on defense, sacks, turnovers. I say all that, and he almost got killed last week against the Broncos. So what do I know? I'm hoping it's a fun game. 8:30 in the morning. Get up, make your coffee. The Vikings after this week go into the bye. So if we could go into the bye at 5-0 and then get TJ Hawkinson back at the end of the month, we could be firing on all cylinders going into the heart of the schedule. And this is a really fun ride. All right, I'm going to finish my medicine. Skål för det. That's quite enjoyable. Go Vikings.